spends, you know, depending on the ripening of the grapes, it spends a fair bit of time, 5 to 6 months on the lees, just with that, and another 3 months after they rack it and filter it. Racking is moving it from where it's been aging in the cask and into perhaps another cask or into the bottle. And filtration tends to get out any particles from skins or pips or whatever that we're tasting the Italo Chascone first. So the Charlecetto, it's one of the 3 whites, and this is what the bottle looks like. So Italo Chascone was established in 1957, really in the area, and is managed. It's actually still a family winery. It's managed by his children. He has 3 kids, Gloria, Graziella, and he must have been first before they voted on the G's, Domenico. And they still work with their mom. And they have wines, 3 DOCs in Italy, in Piave, Friuli, and Valdo d'Abbiane. And this one is from Friuli, and a lot of the Pinot Grigio in Italy comes from there. And really, their goal is to get consistency from year to year in the wines. And so with that, I just want to raise a glass to Italo Chascone. You can't see my glass. Now you can, they can't. But cheers. And you've tasted an Italo Chascone red, and now you get to taste an Italo Chascone Pinot Grigio. So.
Okay.
Salud.
Great. So if you want to go ahead and unmute, we can talk about the wine.
It's good.
Yeah, we're not usually big white wine people, so we're always surprised when we open one and take a big sip and are like pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It feels like summertime.
Yeah.
What a great way to say it. That's really true. So if, you think about this, this area is influenced by the Adriatic Sea. It sits, kind of in the shadow of the Alps, section of the Dolomite, and it's, think of summer, think of cool in summer, and yeah, that's a great thing.
Well, when I read the tasting notes that were sent, and it said it has the characteristic bitterness associated with Pinot Grigio, and I don't know the bitterness here.
So bitterness is a bit of a telltale for Pinot Grigio, and if you can, the way that I taste it or see it is like I get like a bitter nut quality, like a bitter almond or like almond skin, and I don't know, if you find that, but yeah, I mean, there's a what they call a phenolic bitterness that's intrinsic to Pinot Gris, and it should be a trait that you'll taste on all 3 wines.
The phenolic bitterness.
Yeah.
It's got that acid and bitterness, but it still has some decent fruit. It could probably use it as a coiffer, as well as you could probably do with oysters too.
So good.
I mean, maybe.
So I'm hungry. Let's limit the food talk. So
Get crackers though.
We have an important question about the size of the bottles that came home.
Yeah.
He thinks they're the same. What's
They're not.
They're bigger. Thank God.
No. So no. So they're both 50 milliliter bottles.
Not big.
The plastic versus the glass. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, they just look larger than the last tasting.
Yeah, they're a little different shape.
Plastic.
Are you gonna collect these for recycling? Can we bring them back and you can reuse them or no?
That's up to you.
I'm just saying.
Why
like,
don't you reuse them? You know, you can use them for like hot sauces and
Ooh, we
know,
can make
things
hot
like
sauce.
that,
That's true. We
you
can make
know?
hot sauce.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good idea.
There's
All right,
stuffing.
well,
Yeah.
people will stop
What?
them then.
Stuffing.
That's
Fascinating.
yeah, we have the plastikies still. We have the.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Jamie, there's
it definitely
a
seems
different
voluble,
time.
but
Optical illusion.
I,
Is it small?
you know, I believe everything I read, and both labels said 50 milliliters. So
I think you could do like.
Plastic was just.
Nice choice.
it's when I was portioning out the bottles, it made sense because I was able to get about 12. You know, yeah. So you know, the ounces
You
work.
know,
Nice job. Good job.
Yeah.
it's interesting that
Well, thank you so much for doing it. It cannot be untedious.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should show you the contraption that I came up with to fill the bottles. It's like this really small funnel, and I put a drinking straw on it and taped it up.
That's amazing.
It was
We
great.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well done.
MacGyver.
Yes.
They're very nice for art.
So, any other thoughts about the wine?
It's good.
Yeah.
I agree.
I
think
love the comment about the summer waffle. I think that's
No, we're not
actually it.
needed. Do that.
Average cost, what's it usually cost?
You should get this for, you know, in the $16 to $20 range, no problem.
It's right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, this is your Tuesday night quafford, so enjoy.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
find it locally?
Yeah, you should be able to find it. It's just distributed by a company called Lanterna. You know, actually, one of the owners is a guy named Jeff Sarfino, who's a member of the Center Club.
security to stop.
But yeah, if you go to your store and they don't have it, they can order through Lanterna.
That's a big distributor.
All right, Howard, do you think you're ready to move on to the next wine?
Yep.
Well,
All right,
I
so
am.
I am going to mute everyone and then unmute you again, Howard. So everybody hang tight.
Hey, Pat and John.
All right, Howard, you're back up.
I'm ready to go.
All right, let's
So,
do it. So it's
our
Kings
next-
Ridge.
Yep, our next wine is the Kings Ridge 2018 Pinot Gris. And to remind you, Pinot Gris tends to be fruitier, not as dry. So I'll be interested to hear and to taste it to see if in fact that holds true. And it's from the Union Wine Group, which is based in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and was started in 2005. And you should know the name of the founder, Ryan Harms, because he will come up again later. We'll talk about it a little bit. And Pinot Grigio is a quiet cousin to Pinot Noir. I mean, a lot of people have Pinot Noir as their favorite wine. And I haven't heard a lot of people saying Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio is their favorite wine. And this is, they say 13.5 ABV, which is the average alcohol volume. And sometimes there's some variation between what is on the winery and what's actually in the wine. So we'll see that too. Picked in September, aged perfectly in stainless steel, which is great for Pinot Grigio. Union Wine Company is in fact the largest winery in Oregon. So, and they were also the first, and this helps their growth, that put Pinot Noir in cans. They put outstanding Willamette Valley Pinot Noir in cans. And they've gotten an enormous amount of press from that. And they like to make the Pinot Gris, but their company is really built on Pinot Noir. And it's a great time, actually. What I wanted to talk about, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about Ryan Harms later, is how wineries try to market themselves and how they try to brand themselves. And generally in the wine industry, what I see, Jamie can tell me where I'm wrong, is that they tend to put out 1 or 2 page flyers about each wine and why you should enjoy this wine. And they market that to all the different channels that they sell through. And what I found super interesting in trying to research Kings Ridge is that they put next to no technical information about the wine. They talk a little bit about the season that they had growing the wine, what it was like from bud break to picking, a little bit. But instead of talking about the technical information, all they talk about was what a banner year it was for Pinot Gris. And one of the areas that's really interesting is that a lot of wineries play a game where they tried to hide how they are transforming grapes into wine. And it seems pretty clear that the Union Wine Group enjoys that. And at this time, what I want to do is express my gratitude for Jamie Heffron. Jamie has been fantastic in helping to take the wine club to a higher level even. And we all have a debt to Jamie for how much work he's done in bringing about the wine. And so I would love to talk to you more about the history of the winery and talk to you more about the history of everyone involved. And it's really focused on the leader, the founder, Eric Harms, and really focused on marketing. And by making excellent Pinot Noir in cans, he's changed a lot of views about canned wine. And there's about two glasses and a little bit in one of his cans. And it's kind of perfect if you're going out on a picnic to take one of his cans. So you may want to ask Jamie or look at your favorite winery and ask them about the Union Wine Group's Pinot Gris, or their Pinot Noir in cans, rather. So that's what I had to say about that. Jamie, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I'm glad. Thank you so much, Howard, and thank you for the kind words on wine number 2. If it were wine number 6, I'd be crying right now. So I really appreciate you just being nice. Yeah. So as Howard stated, well, let's unmute. We'll talk. But as Howard stated, this is a large winemaking company. It's the Underwood Wine Company, more or less. But the thing that's neat about them is they're like really focused on community, on quality winemaking. They don't take shortcuts. This particular Pinot Gris is a wine that's sourced from various vineyard properties in the Willamette Valley, but it's done correctly. So they one interesting thing about Willamette is that it's a region that is considered a cool climate region. So therefore, grapes like Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris thrive in that region. Pinot Gris is the number 2 planted grape variety in Willamette Valley, behind Pinot Noir, and now Chardonnay is kind of running a race as third. And all 3 of those grapes are very cool climates, and it's a climate that's influenced. Yes, it is. So
I was going to just add that Gamay is starting to rise up as a grape.
What was that?
Gamay.
Okay. Yeah. So once again, a sister variety, you know, to Pinot Noir.
Yep.
But what's interesting about Willamette, and I'm sure Howard will talk about it. I don't want to, you know, steal any of his you know, communication, but you know, the Willamette is influenced by a geological, you know, phenomenon called the Van Duzer Corridor, which is just a funnel of cool air from the Pacific Ocean that sweeps into Willamette, particularly around the McMinnville area, Eel Amity, that provides this, you know, prevailing cool breeze that creates an extended growing season and, you know, allows the grapes to mature to ripeness, but still retain acidity. Yeah, I really did digress there. But to talk about the Underwood property and their can wine, the wines are really high quality, and there's been vast improvements, you know, with like can making specifically, where, you know, there's this perception that a can will taste tinny. It's not the case at all. They're lined. The wines come out fresh. They're delicious.
I went with a
They do a sparkling. They do Pinot Gris. They do Pinot Noir. And I will say, Howard said they're great for a picnic. They're absolutely perfect for when you can get back into the movie theater and sit down and enjoy a movie and sip on a glass of wine while you're watching your favorite blockbuster. So, yeah, I've been through many a movie theater with a can of Underwood Pinot Gris or Noir. So,
Ooh, I like that.
I know, right? Yeah.
Howard, I have a question for you. You mentioned that the winemaker was talking about that it was a banner year. What was the year?
2017.
Okay.
2017, and it was just the weather that they had, the early like water that came in, and then beautiful dry weather that was a long season, and it just allowed for a lot of production. And one of the areas why it really matters is think about 2018 in Maryland. 2018, the summer in Maryland, it rained not a ton. But it rained almost every day.
That's right.
And production was really down. And so weather, like you have to remember, it's a farm product. So the weather really matters on that. And what I wanted to say about Willamette is it's really interesting to me as well, the difference between Willamette Valley and as you go up the mountain and over the mountain, what everybody's trying to do to, you know, elevation has an interesting impact on wine. And some of the Oregon Crus, some of the better wines are higher up. And Jamie, if I'm correct, I think we did Oregon Pinot Noir tasting maybe in 17. It may have been before you came.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But I remember
one.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at my notes, but I'm pretty sure we tasted.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes. Yeah. So not just because Pat and I are from Oregon, but you know, we really do like the Willamette Valley wines, and I prefer this one over the first one because that first one it carried that bitterness for me anyway all the way through my particular tasting, but this one doesn't have any of that at all, in my opinion. I really like this.
And much more fruit. It's got much more fruit like throughout it.
Is the you mentioned the Pinot Gris is a little sweeter typically. Is that generally because they harvest those later? Because I noticed this is a whole month harvested after the first one, or is that just this vineyard's preference?
Somewhere in fall.
So it's really, I mean, from my perspective, it depends on the vineyard and what they're trying to achieve. But go ahead, Jamie. What were you going to say?
I was going to say you broke up a little bit, so I didn't hear the whole question.
Oh, I was asking that you had introduced that the Pinot Gris was a little sweeter typically than the Pinot Grigio, and it's also harvested a whole month later. I was wondering if that was traditional with that grape, that it's a later harvest, or the vineyard's preference.
Yeah, I think I agree with Howard in some respect that it really is site specific. You know, the first wine in particular is a little bit of a cooler region. It was probably more of an alpine environment that was a little cooler. Although, you know, the Willamette Valley is a cool region. It's, you know, from a latitudinal perspective, it sits on the 45-degree parallel relative to like Burgundy in France, which is a noted, you know, cool climate area. I do think that I agree with you. I think there's like a little core of like residual sugar in the second wine from Oregon, and from a blind tasting perspective, that's a tell. Oregon Pinot Gris tends to carry a little bit of that residual sweetness with it, and I think that's a function of that effective, you know, that Van Duzer corridor allowing a little bit of an extended growing season to get like a little bit of a fuller ripeness, but it still does retain some acidity.
We really like the 14 hands for like everyday Tuesday night drinking, and we recently we bought a whole case of it because of coronavirus. Just have the case sent in. They sent the Pinot Grigio cans, so interested that you mentioned both that Pinot Grigio is really from that region, because I'd only ever had their reds before, and that the cans actually I was pretty impressed.
Yeah.
Wine, other than it being a half a bottle of wine, watch out, in one can.
No, right. So that's the rub. It really is. It's like it's a half a bottle of wine, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, absolutely.
Have you gotten masks with the hole cut in so you can put a straw through them? So you can drink can wine?
Not yet.
I think there's a market for that.
I would invest. So yeah.
You know
That's
the
a good idea.
alcohol. You know
Barbara, what's up?
the alcohol of the first Pinot Grigio versus the second.
Well, that's what I'm interested to hear is who actually preferred the Italo Toscane Pinot Grigio over the
I did.
Pinot Grigio. And
The
what
Italio
was it
Toscane
that
was
you
coming
guys
in at
did?
12.5.
What's that?
12.5
Oh, just
versus
want to know,
13.5.
what was it that made you prefer it? Like, what was the aspect of it that you liked more? Was it the acidity?
That's what I was asking. This Pinot Gris has a little heavy on the alcohol. To me, I thought the other one was lighter. I couldn't taste the alcohol as much. So that's why I liked it.
So we had a couple of questions out there. I see Marissa Johnson was asking, had her hands up, but you're also muted. So, and likewise with Barbara.
I was voting for the first Pinot Grigio. It was light and refreshing. Also, I'm new to the wine club, so I don't know.
Welcome to Wine Club.
But yes, I like both. But the first one reminded me, as Stephanie said, more like summer, kind of like rosé, just like very chill and relaxing, kind of.
Yeah, so that's a note for like Pinot Grigio that's grown in elevation. And I'm sorry that we didn't have an example from like the Alto Adige in Italy. They're really lovely. Really high acidity. Well, not really high, but nice acidity. And that floral component really, really comes through in the nose. They're really, really great. So, Barbara, did you have a question? Okay.
Well, I was just going to riff off of that. I was just going to say, I think one of the best Rieslings I've ever had came from Trentino Alto Adige. And it's just interesting with an area that's a little bit closer to Switzerland, a little bit higher up, you know, footprint.
Cool. All right, so any other commentary about Kings Ridge or anything like that?
I did have a question. These, you specifically said they were aged in stainless steel, the the Kings Ridge. Was the Italio also stainless steel?
Yes,
or?
Yes, it was.
It was. See, I didn't get that minerally taste as much on the first.
And I'm not saying, and please excuse me if I come off like a jerk, but
I want to know.
but stainless steel. So part of its charm is that it's inert. It doesn't transfer any flavor or anything like that. So that's part of the charm. What you could be associating with steeliness is a lot of wines that are, you know, purposely aged or fermented aged in stainless steel are wines that typically carry a little higher acidity, and that acidity can sometimes transfer to like a steeliness or a minerality.
Okay, interesting. I always thought that came from, because when you taste like an oaky Chardonnay,
Yeah,
you get
oak
but I
is
guess it's more,
definitely
you get something from oak and it's the absence of it in.
yeah. Oak is definitely part of like the chef's spice rack. So they want to derive flavor from oak.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. It's like what's amazing is it's just there's so much to learn and it's so interesting. So I preferred the first wine. I appreciate this wine very much, and it's beautifully made. But I still, even now as we're talking, I still have a sense of sugar on my tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've
Right?
been kind of snacking with this, and we had cherries with the first one, and the
That's interesting.
sweetness in the cherries really balanced out the acidity in the wine. And then we decided we wanted cheese with the second one. And that was a creamier cheese. That was a really nice mix too. So I think that, you know, one of the features of these wines is to pair them, you know, with the complementary taste that you want to have with them.
Great
It's
point.
an interesting topic. Very interesting topic.
All right, Howard, you ready to move on to wine 3?
Let's do it.
I'm
You shall
ready.
be silent.
It's so funny. I really.
Is everybody else ready? I'm ready. Okay. So this is the Paul Blanc 2017 Alsatian Pinot Gris. And it's Alsatian because it comes from the area in France, on the very east of France, called Alsace. And one of the interesting areas about Alsace is that depending on the year, it could be German or it could be French. And it ultimately ended up being French. But how much of it is still a German influence on the culture, the history, the food, and the wine? And it makes it pretty interesting. This winery, Paul Blanc, is 86 acres. And the thing about it, and I spent some time on this, which was fascinating, it says 30 of them are Grand Cru. And when you think of Grand Cru, you think of Bordeaux. And in fact, there are Grand Cru in Alsace, and I'll talk a little about that. But they have 30 Grand Cru, and 30, there's a French term, lieu dit, or place name. And they have 30 of those, and 26 are just in the Alsatian plain. And what's also interesting to me about Alsace is when you think about wineries and when wine was created in an area, and the earliest time when there is recording of wine in Alsace is 762. Like, wasn't yesterday, 762. And the whole idea of Grand Cru there really was created in as an AOC, an AVA in France, in 1975, and ultimately that area was expanded. And the winery is named for Paul, and Paul was not the founder, not the planter of grapes there, but he really gained recognition of an area called Schlossberg, nice French name, Schlossberg, as a great wine area and terroir, really land to make wine in France. And again, it's a family winery. Paul's sons, Bernard and Marcel, worked and built on Paul's legacy and actually got recognition in 1975 of the area of Strasbourg as an area for Grand Cru. And not all of it is from Paul Blanc's, but they have, as I said, 30 Grand Cru. And so as you're thinking about wine, I really want you to think about Alsace as an area to look for wine. So there's a fantastic sparkling wine that comes from that area, Crémant d'Alsace. And if you look at vintages in Champagne and they're $300, you're like, yeah, I just don't want to spend that on wine. I have to say Crémant d'Alsace is a really credible alternative. I mean, there are a bunch of them, but that is definitely one of them. And so think about Alsace. It's a great area. And what's interesting as well about the Paul Blanc Winery is there are now cousins that are running the winery and trying to build the name. And it's always fascinating to me as I look out at wineries of which stay in the family and which are sold to a group or a larger group. Like earlier, we were talking about Union Wine Company, the Underwood Group. And it's just interesting that they've been able to stay family, and a lot of it has been built on the strength of their Grand Cru and being able to sell them, again, not for the same prices you're going to pay for, you know, right bank or left bank for the food. So, voila.
Voila.
Beautiful nose.
Right here. I need to fix it.
So my commentary on this is this, you know, these three wines are really just a great example of, you know, there's a similarity and a difference.
That's going to be an area that we're going to be.
And the difference for me is directly related to climate and temperature. The first wine, you know, cooler climate, more bracing acidity, a little lower alcohol. The second wine, you start to ripen up a little bit. You're getting a little more residual sugar in the wine. The grapes are riper at harvest. And then this last wine to me is just like sunshine. You know, it's just you know, it's an area that's, you know, Alsace in and of itself is one of the warmest regions in France. And this wine speaks of that sunny, warm climate. There's richness and ripeness, and, you know, the fruit component is even a little more, you know, ripe and bruised. You know, you're like riper apples, riper pears, you know. All right, so that's it. I'm off the soapbox.
Well, I agree with you. I think this is very nice. My taste buds really like this one.
Yeah, I agree. This is primo.
I'd like to underline that the Crémants are really quite wonderful. My family comes from Luxembourg, and Luxembourg produces it not for export, but a fair amount. They drink it all themselves, but some very, very nice Crémants.
But yes, and we're not drinking it, but we've had many a Crémant d'Alsace, and we would agree with you, Howard, on it's a good choice.
It's so true. It's funny, I lived in Belgium for 6.5 years, and I think we always look down a little bit on Luxembourg in Belgium. I don't have an opinion on it, but, you know, Belgium's a small country and Luxembourg's even smaller, and so we always look down.
We'll need to swap stories about countries at some point.
Well, most of the joke
what do you think, Mr. Schlesinger?
about Holland, not Luxembourg.
Yes.
Hey, Howard,
This is very nice.
for you. The our first one we had was a DOC, and it's clearly labeled right across the neck of the bottle there. And the Alsatian wine doesn't seem to be, I guess, touting that it's the Grand Cru, right? So
it is not Grand Cru.
Oh, it's not.
So no. The Paul Blanc family has properties that are Grand Cru. This particular wine is sourced from various different vineyard sites. So this is their classique, you know, tier. But it's not a Grand Cru Pinot Gris from Alsace. I would recommend that you look for a Grand Cru Pinot Gris from Alsace. Domaine Weinbach makes extraordinary wine. Domaine Ostertag, things like that. They're more pricey. Obviously, that's why we're not tasting Grand Cru Pinot Gris. But they're fantastic. They're really just one of the great food wines of the world.
Okay, yeah, I thought that.
You
he had
did a
said that it
beautiful
was,
job with
but how would you know if
their
it's, labeled?
So yeah, so within Alsace, there are 52 Grand Crus identified, and in order, you'll know you're drinking a Grand Cru from Alsace because it has to be on the label. So, for example, he mentioned Schlossberg. It would say Schlossberg on the label. Okay, and that's one of the identified Grand Crus.
I was confused.
Yeah.
Good.
Everyone's too good on this thing.
It's a really great question, AJ.
So Paul Blanc, they have a whole portfolio with Rieslings and
So I can like.
Tokai Pinot Gris, et cetera. They have,
Yep.
And the cruise. Yep.
Yeah, he's a good winemaker. I like it.
Yeah, and definitely in the higher quality stuff. And they're doing it right. They're using natural yeast and farming properly and doing all the right things there.
So I'm going to talk a little bit later about this whole concept in France that's not organic, but just short of organic. So yeah, it's interesting that, Jamie talked about natural yeast, and grapes can self-ferment. And there are many examples of yeast from the environment as opposed to yeast that you would add. But you could just open the windows and let the yeast blow in. And because grapes do self-ferment, and there's many examples of that. It's fascinating. So we finished the white wine. So my question is,
everybody, round of applause.
If you had to buy one of them, which one would you buy?
This one.
The first one.
For sure.
I would buy the
Alsace.
One. First one.
I
Pick
would-
one
First
and
and third.
depending on the day.
This is for,
Several votes.
Look at all these different votes.
Depends on what we want to do with it.
yeah.
Eating dinner or
doing
having
right
it for
now?
a cocktail.
That's why they have so many different bottles of wine.
So Barbara, what did you pair
So
with
what
wine 3?
Pardon me?
What did you pair with wine 3 for food?
Nothing. It was complete.
Yeah. So honestly, this is a wine that goes with heartier dishes, and if you think about it, this is like, it's the region that it comes from, but they do a lot of pork dishes and things like that. This is the land of pork and sauerkraut, so.
Let's just say
I had several meals of sauerkraut with pork in the Alsace area, and I could not agree more. The perfect wine for that.
Yeah, this last one was sweeter, but like in a different way than this second one that we liked more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the creamy.
more like honey instead of a sugary taste.
Real
I
creamy.
couldn't agree more.
Creamier.
Yeah, the second one was almost like granular with like the sugar, Yeah.
Almost. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. And it's interesting that every person has an individualized palate. And there are times that you read descriptions and you're like, yeah, I can't taste that. And you know what? Whatever you taste, it's magical. So it doesn't matter. And everyone has a different palate. Some have more expressed palate. Some have not as expressed palate. But there's no wrong answer. And someone can rate a wine super highly and it can leave you flat. And someone could rate a wine at 86 and you could be like, this is spectacular. And it's what you like. It's your palate, and it's your palate. Own it. Develop it.
I think
And if
there's-
there's a wine you like, try different examples of that wine. Try it from different producers. People who pick it early, pick it late, age in new wood, old wood, 30% new wood, steel. Try lots of different varieties of it and find what you love, because it's what you love, and that's all that's important.
Sorry,
Here,
did we
here.
ask about a price point on this one?
Sorry?
Did we ask about, somebody already asked about a price point on this one?
For the Paul
No
Blanc,
one asked.
Yes.
yeah, under 30. So,
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I think it'd be fair to say you could find it like for $28 and under,
Yeah, Howard,
Yeah,
just
I-
what
I
you were
think I
saying
saw-
a second
saw
ago
some that
about
were
different palates. We had to, we took a wine tasting class where at the end of it, they gave us professional reviews for a couple of the bottles. Like we maybe tasted 10, and then they gave us 3, and we had to guess, and hardly anyone got it. It was just completely random,
Yeah, one by complete chance.
Yeah.
Wine tasting is exceedingly hard, and it's like great respect to Jamie for as far as he's gotten. And there's lots of politics going on for master sommeliers, and we just had a master sommelier who just resigned. Again, there's a lot of politics around wine, and I go back to, you want to be happy, drink more wine. Like, enjoy the wines you love. Like, don't worry about the politics. Just drink the wine.
There you go.
Drink what you like.
Cheers.
And if you don't want to, yeah, if you want to spend $20, $30, $100, $50, it doesn't matter. Like, it's whatever you like and whatever you like to drink. And sometimes, and in different seasons, you drink different things. So I just had a bunch of rosés from a Maryland winery, Elk Run. They're citrine, and it's spectacular. And it's spectacular when it's like it is now. Like, it's going to be high 80s, low 90s, high humidity, raining every day. It's perfect for it. Chilled.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
so off to Redland. You ready to kick in Régie Bouvier?
So
we're starting with
all the time. You want to mute everyone, and then we'll go back?
Yes, sir. Just give me a second, and we shall do that.
You're the master of ceremonies.
He's got it.
You always
All right,
have to
good to go.
forgive me when you have to forgive me when I'm talking about wine. I speak fluent French and I speak Italian not quite fluently, and my French accent is French, and I do apologize for it. But if I ever say something and you're like, "What did you say?" you should interrupt me, because when I'm tired, sometimes I just speak French and I'm not aware of it. So sometimes my wife gets pretty upset with me when I do that, and I try not to do that. So Régie Bouvier in Burgundy. So it's obvious that wines in Burgundy are spectacular. Nothing short of that. And one of the things that Jamie found that's fantastic is, how can you find Burgundies that you can drink every day, that are affordable to drink every day, but that are still great? And one of the things that I found fascinating about Régie Bouvier's wine is it's on 1.5 hectares, which is a little bit about like 2.2 acres. And for Burgundy, that's a massive area. It's huge. And it's actually located just outside of the town of Dijon, which is in the very north of Burgundy. And Marcenais, which is an area within Burgundy, and it's sort of in Côte de Marcenais. It's like next to Marcenais. It's right near that. And this is on 1.5 hectares, which is a huge area. So it's aged in 80 hectoliter, what they call foudres, which are very large wooden vats, and they age it for 6 months. And in French, one of the things I love is that foudre, if you say coup de foudre, like if you see a lady and you instantly like have a flash and you fall in love, or the lady, you fall in love with a guy, it's called a coup de foudre. And it's like a clap of thunder in your heart. And so Marcenais-la-Côte is just outside of Marcenais, and spend a minute looking at Marcenais. And Dijon is an amazing town, fantastic food. It's great. So I said earlier when I was talking about Alsace, I would talk a little bit about a method that's really taken hold in France and in different parts of France. And organic wines and everything beyond organic has really taken hold in a lot of places. And what they use is a method called lutte raisonnée. And lutte in French is literally fight. It literally means fight. Lutter is the verb for to fight in French. And it's basically, you're fighting against nature. It's like a controlled fight against nature. And so in a lot of the organic wines, biodynamic, natural, there is no yeast, no chemicals, nothing. And in lutte raisonnée, the controlled fight, they will use chemicals if they absolutely have to, but they really don't want to do that. And part of what lutte raisonnée is to have other ground cover on that and use completely natural fertilizers on the vines. And they extract the juice from this method. You might see it on your notes, from this airbag extraction method. And what it does is it doesn't crush the seeds or the pips in the grapes. And it's a softer way of getting the juice from the grapes. They plow the soil under, and fermentation really takes place naturally in these large hectoliter vats. Grapes naturally can self-ferment. It's remarkable, but they do. And it's used, the method of lutte raisonnée is being used more widely in Burgundy, whereas if you went into Beaujolais, you'd see a lot more organic wines, biodynamic wines, natural wines. And in a lot of France, you see this lutte raisonnée. And so if you haven't heard of it, it's worth investigating, because it's just a little bit short of natural, a little bit short of organic, not really controlled by nature. It's closer to organic that way. There's no rule on that. And so it's really made on 3 different parcels.
Did anybody else lose Howard?
No.
No. I'm still talking, and hopefully you can still hear me.
We can't hear you
Maybe
at
I'm
all.
talking.
Je ne sais pas.
So it's also interesting to me. We talked earlier in Alsace about family-owned wineries and what's important. And what's fascinating to me about Le Gibouvier is it's part of a group that's owned by Kermit Lynch. And so it's always worth getting below the surface to find out, who is Kermit Lynch? How did he get started? What's up with that? How's it going? And for anybody who's thought about having a wine company, buying a winery, there are wineries for sale. They're actually, I'm in commercial real estate. There are large companies that all they do is sell wineries and land and agricultural land. And so Kermit Lynch Wine Merchants was started with a $5,000 loan and about 36 cases of wine that Kermit had in 1975. But really on a shoestring and really marketing and all that. And so if you have hopes of doing all of that, they now own over 50 small wineries and try to bring the best of winemaking to those small wineries. And so they were probably thrilled to get a Burgundy winery, Le Gibouvier. And they've now expanded and own several, including several in Marcenais, which again is the very north of Burgundy. It's in the northern end. It's above Côte d'Or that they talk about, Côte Nuit. It's well north of that. And so if you're looking at starting a wine company, borrow a little bit of money, empty your wine cellar, start selling it, and maybe in, you know, a bunch of years you can own a number of wineries. So Le Gibouvier from Burgundy. So you're drinking a Burgundy wine, and many Burgundy wines we'd be unable to provide in the wine club because they're $300, $350 a bottle. So enjoy. Jamie, do you want to add anything on Le Gibouvier, Burgundy? Lutte is the name.
I think that's great.
We've
And,
lost
you
the
know, it's-
audio.
So Jamie, Pat and I have lost the audio. I think we're going to have to leave and come back in.
Ooh, okay, so I hear you. You hear me, right?
I don't know
Okay,
what you're
yeah,
asking,
then
we can't
log
read
out
lips.
and log back in. So log
We're going to
out
leave and come back
log
in.
back in. Yeah.
I'll move my phone closer to me so maybe you can hear me more
I
clearly.
don't, they're not hearing me either, Howard. So, and on their, they were, yeah, their mic looked like it was okay. Okay, so in terms of adding anything to Howard, you did a great job there. You know, there are Burgundies that can be found, you know, at good price points. This is where developing a relationship with your, you know, your friendly neighborhood wine guy is good, and they can direct you in a way. You know, Burgundy, fortunately, is going through a series of back-to-back, like really good vintages. You know, I know in certain areas there's some supply side issues from climatic events, but you can find, you know, really good wine in Burgundy for, you know, we'll see that for the next couple of successive vintages. So that's good. So John, I can hear you.
It's Ruth Hunting.
Yeah,
We're back.
Burgundy.
we're back.
Yes, you
We
are
left
loud and proud.
joined.
Do you have any idea how COVID's going to affect the ability to produce and distribute?
So, you know, great vines grow, right? So, you know, and we've actually just kind of went through, you know, bud break and things like that in wineries where, you know, things are moving forward. There are times where, you know, social distancing is not practical in a winery. And that's more related to harvest and things like that. It really does depend on the size of the winery, what their production levels are, and those types of considerations. Everyone's learning through this process. So this is an industry that's full of creative and smart people, and they will they will figure out a way, you know. So yeah.
And a lot of the wineries are family-owned wineries, and think about when you go out, you might wear a mask, but in family, you don't wear a mask. And so maybe they can manage all of that.
Yeah.
So I am joking when I say this, Howard, but do you want to talk about Napoleonic laws and the fact that, you know, when someone passes away, the property is distributed amongst its survivors?
So it's fascinating to me, sort of across French law, how French law works. And for all the women that are in the room,
Yeah. Primogeniture.
you're not advantaged in France. I'm sorry. You're in my heart, but you're not advantaged in France. And women really have to fight to get their equal share. The Napoleonic laws really set out patrimony and where wineries and how they would go and where they would go. And talking about the last wine we had in Alsace, how the cousins came into it from the family, and they're still part of the family because none of the kids had kids. So it's really interesting. And part of the reason why sometimes you see exceedingly small plots in France is
In Burgundy specifically. Yeah.
specifically in Burgundy, and why I talked about that 1.5, you know, as an area, like hectare as an area is just massive in Burgundy, because you see some that are like 0.01 or 0.015 hectare.
Yeah, you
And
get into
it's
Grand
just-
Cru vineyard property in Burgundy, and people literally own rows. You know, it's not like part of. I mean, they're like, this is my section. So,
like if this is my part of this one line of grapes, like I get this line, you get that line. So you see a lot, not a lot of it is sold in the US, but you can see a lot of it. And most of the French wine is sold in France and in the European Union. And the US has really improved its consumption, which is great. I love that. But we're still growing as a country and loving wine. And it's fascinating, particularly in Burgundy, how things get parceled out. And what's amazing, especially in this country, is to have something from the Napoleonic times that it still carries weight in France today. You know, I think I've seen some of that in Champagne as well. That I've seen some parceling of Champagne plots. Not as much as Burgundy, but I have seen some of that. And why I still see some opening areas in Champagne, so that new producers can actually come in, because it's all just in families that have passed it down and passed it down and passed it down. And it's an interesting legacy in France. Yeah, it's really interesting.
what do you think about the wine?
So for me, Jamie and Howard, it has somewhat of a residual, kind of a bit of heaviness on the tongue. I don't know how else to describe it, but there's something there that lingers.
Well, she might have
I would
addressed
call it weight, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
I like the
That's okay.
I like the floral nature of it, that it had some floral tones to the nose and even on the tongue, that you could taste some flowers in it. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
I want to say I disagree. I like this wine. I don't think there's
Tell
any
me what you
heaviness.
She's
Tell me what you
disagreeing
like
with
about
me. Linda always likes to disagree with me, so.
Well, you know what? I'm
That's
eating,
nothing personal, John.
no, but I'm eating cheese with this wine, and it goes really well with cheese. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the difference.
So to speak in general terms, one thing that will identify in this wine is that it's probably a little more earthy, brambly, and less fruit forward, which I think we'll see in the next two wines. We'll see a little more sort of fruit forwardness, but that's, you know, once again, kind of that, you know, old world, new world conversation where, you know, Burgundy's a little bit of a cooler area. I get a lot of red fruit here, you know, like really kind of bruised and ripe strawberry and things like that. But it's in the background.
It's not forward, but it's definitely there, but it's not forward.
Anyway, so
Yeah,
we survived
so,
Burgundy. We're good.
So does anybody have any comments about Burgundy?
So we did talk about price points, but not about this. So obviously it is a Burgundy. So what type of price point does this wine have?
Yeah, so once again, I think this is, you know, so this particular bottling is Bourgogne Rouge, so it's a broader area. It's not a specific Premier Cru or something like that. So it's definitely in the bottom tier of, you know, the pyramid. And you should be able to find this, once again, low 30s, you know, yeah.
It might even
I
see
think
it on sale in the high 20s.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it. You know, Pinot Noir is a bit of a unicorn. It's hard to make really good Pinot Noir inexpensively. So. All right. AJ, how was it drinking out of the decanter?
We were actually just talking about that, and
Yeah.
and decanter under 2 hours now. We poured it around 6 o'clock, I guess, or before that. And everybody's liking it. Yeah, everybody's thumbs up.
Good, good. So you got a positive result from that. That's great.
We're eating
Yeah.
it with some, having a couple different things, a little bit of fig. With some dark
Oh man, that
chocolate.
sounds awesome.
Fig and dark chocolate, a little bit of almond.
Yeah.
It's nice for some snacks.
All right, that sounds terrific.
You offer that comment. I did find occasionally I could really benefit from breathing a little bit more. You don't want to.
Yeah.
All
right, guys.
Where we can find this. I don't know if she's trying to
Yeah,
look it
this
up
is
right now.
good. I don't really.
You can't find it anywhere that we could get it.
So it's distributed by Winebow. So go to your favorite retailer, and they should be able to order it through them. So the wholesaler is Winebow.
And Stephanie is asking, can we just get it directly from you?
Yes, you can. I'll yeah, you can. Just send me an email, and certainly during this, I keep forgetting that, you know, right now we're doing off-premise sales, which we're not typically allowed to do. But until they tell me I can't, I'm going to. So,
All right.
so yes, buy from us.
It's true.
Send you a list.
So just send me an email, and we'll talk. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that goes for all.
Salad.
So.
Thank you.
I got some of that salad, which has been spectacular.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
This one yet, right? This is the
So
All
jump
right.
on to
Oregon.
the next Pinot.
Yep, let's keep going.
Back to Oregon.
Oh, is this an Oregon? Yeah.
We're back in the Willamette area.
No, no doubt.
So,
Yeah. No doubt.
Evan
Absolutely.
Vineyards was founded in the Willamette
agree?
in 1971.
You need to mute everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Howard, you're
probably on.
breaking up big time.
Oh, it's the thunderstorm.
A thunderstorm.
We're on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I thought I had muted, but I had not. So, okay, there we go. Thank you, Sheila.
All right. Thank you. So Amity Vineyards was founded in 1971 by Jerry and Ann Preston, and they planted Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc, Gamay Noir, and Riesling. And then in 1974, they sold it to a name you might recognize, Mylan Redford, who had really the goal of making top shelf Pinot Noir. And actually, Myron was the first to organically and sulfite-free grow Pinot Noir. And it's in the Eola Amity Hills on about 13.5 acres. And he really grew the reputation of Amity Vineyards. And he had a family member who developed cancer. So in 2004, he felt like he had to sell it. And he was really pleased to sell it to a guy who is dynamite in wine in the Willamette Valley that we talked about, which is the Union Wine Company, Mr. Harms. And so it's basically about 33% new French oak, which would mean 67% used French oak or someone else's oak. And they produce by a method known as carbonic maceration, which tends to produce a little bit of creaminess. But it's really whole bunch uncrushed grapes, which are used generally in Gamay, but also used in Pinot Noir and naturally ferment through that process. And so really they inject carbon dioxide and just let it ferment and still ferment. And naturally add it to the yeast. And they tend to try to pick this as late as they can. And sometimes what they do is, and I want to bring up another French phrase, even though it's Oregon. There's a French phrase that's known as pied de cuve, which is really early natural fermentation. Early, meaning you put it in right away. Natural, you don't add any yeast. And it self-ferments. And it tends to create fruitier wines, more flavors. There's no addition of yeast. It's just naturally yeasted from the grapes, which we talked about earlier. And Union Wine Company has really tried to professionalize and increase production of the wineries that it buys. And it was fascinating to see how pleased, and remember, Union through as process produced wine in cans. They're kind of a new method wine organization. But they're also very classic in terms of style. And so hopefully you'll enjoy this Oregon Pinot Noir, which is our only Oregon bred Pinot Noir of the tasting. Enjoy it. Jamie, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm good. It's I think it's really important just to emphasize what a young wine region Oregon is. You don't realize that the first people to really start to do something there wasn't until the late 60s, early 70s. And they had their little, Treaty of Paris moment as well, with David Lett of Ivory Vineyard submitting Pinot Noir to a very prestigious Burgundy tasting and doing like really well. So, that really kind of emphasized, what a potential region was. And it's booming. Everyone's going in there now and it's doing great. Yeah. So
it's fascinating
Willamette,
to me that, go ahead, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, Willamette, you can, the wines are becoming, particularly from more recognized producers, more expensive, but it still is one of those areas where you can find You know, I talked about Pinot Noir being a bit of a unicorn. This is one of those areas where you can find, you know, like really tasty Pinot Noir that's made properly, you know, for a good price.
This is a winner.
I just add that that they win, many of the vineyards out there win international awards year after year after year. So they're really on the leading edge for Pinot Noirs.
Yeah,
it's true. And it was fascinating to me to see large French Pinot Noir producers opening in the Willamette Valley and up in the mountains, like Domaine Drouin, for example.
Wow.
And you can find them everywhere, Domaine Drouin, Pinot Noir from Oregon.
Wow.
And Oregon Pinot Noir is definitely a thing and worth, again, investigating. And again, there are people that regularly rate Pinot Noir as their favorite wine. And yeah, so maybe you like this one.
What I think is interesting about Pinot Noir is either people love it or hate it. There's really not.
Hate is gonna hate. You can't do anything about it. So.
But I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we
Really?
like this one though.
Did you
we like
read,
this one more
did
than
you
the
read
last
what
one.
this tasting was?
But that's the thing, we're open to trying, and this one's great. But if
Beautiful.
you asked
Yeah.
you know, before this, we'd be like, oh, Pinot Noir, not our favorite. But this is
Yeah.
lovely.
This one has a little more body than the last one. I think, yeah.
We drink a lot of
Really
Pinot Noir,
balanced.
even with fish, and
Oh,
I
sure.
normally would go
This is
for a
wonderful.
California, and we'll see what we think of the Santa Maria one, but I really like this wine. I think it's really is a good one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like it.
So what's great about this wine is I mean, this just is the wine. You know, it's, you know, they picked the grapes, they put it in a press, they put it in a fermenter, they did some things, but they didn't oak it up, they didn't do whatever. And you're really just able to taste kind of the expression of the grape, which I think is, and that's what's so wonderful about Pinot Noir. It really is just, it's an ethereal grape. And when you taste like grape Pinot Noir, it really is one of those epiphany moments where it's like, my God, you know? Yeah.
Yep. It's
Sorry.
So
Yeah, but
if we were to buy this through the club, Jeannie, what do you sell it to us for?
$99.99. So,
Food sale special today.
Is that in Zimbabwe?
yeah, no, I, you know, once again, not having, you know, sort of priced these things out, you know, my stupidity, but yeah, no, it would be probably in that $26, $27 range, given kind of just a retail markup. So yeah,
What year,
yeah.
what year was this wine?
This is Amity. 2017.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and I actually misspoke about the Pinot Gris. It was 2018. So
That banner year was 2018.
the banner year was 2017.
17.
But 18's not so shabby either. So yeah. So one thing just to talk about Pinot Noir, and I'm sorry if I'm, you know, like, yeah.
Just gonna choose myself. Go ahead, Andy.
It's just, it really is expressive of where it's grown. You know, it's you know, it really is, and it's a difficult grape to grow, and it's, you know, and winemakers struggle, and it's really is specific. It can't be planted everywhere, and you know, I'm very impressed with this wine. So for what it is, so yeah.
I agree. It's very balanced, very nice.
Reminds me of Blanc Clément.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, so the next wine is from Santa Maria Valley as well. So, you know, does anyone have any commentary on this? Want to talk about it? Okay,
Other than-
going
other
once,
than we
going
like
twice.
it?
Yeah, well, or just any commentary at all. I mean, if not, we'll move on to the next wine.
It's lovely.
We're
wine.
loving it.
Cool. All right, well, let's taste the Bien Nacido.
It's 26 to
I already did.
$28.
Amity wins.
All right. That was a lovely thunderclap I just heard. All right. Bien Nacido Vineyards, Santa Maria, California. So let's talk for a minute about Santa Maria, because it's its own AVA. And definitely worth investigating. And I will add that as you're thinking about wine trips, they're particularly proud of the fact that they have a shuttle that runs from winery to winery. And that certainly eases the path as you're visiting the 30 vineyards that are in Santa Maria AVA. So it's part of the Santa Barbara County, but in the very northern part of that. So it's only planted on 2% of the total estate, and it's really considered part of the Central Coast in California. And the Central Coast has really a Mediterranean climate. It's pretty rare geography. Jamie talked about this earlier, and it's really a east-west geography, but it really allows the growing season to extend. So you might see some of the sugars in the grapes really turned into alcohol. It'll be interesting to see. This really comes from 5 different parcels that ripen at different times that really add more complexity to the wine, and I think helps us to have as a 6th wine. It's hand harvested at night, fermented naturally. No fining, no filtering is what it is. Malolactic fermentation. Think creamy. The winery is 16 miles from the Pacific Ocean, 30 to 35% French New Oak. I've seen 33, I've seen 35, I've seen 30. I think it just kind of changes. And one of the areas I always look to in wineries is it owned by a family or is it owned by a larger organization? And so in this case, it's the Miller family. Stephen Miller really founded it in the early 70s and has 2 areas, including Bien Nacido, where he grows grapes. And it's also interesting to me are the family members still making the wine, still producing the wine, still farming, or have they professionalized? And in this case, they've professionalized. And they have a very well-known guy who's their winemaker, a guy named Anthony Avila. He's their winemaker. And a former Wines and Spirits Grower of the Year who's managing the entire harvest process, named Chris Hamill. And Bien Nacido makes Chardonnay and Syrah, in addition to Pinot Noir. And I'm so pleased that we are tasting this Pinot Noir. And I highly recommend, as an area, you hear a lot about Napa and Sonoma. I really like Central Coast. I really love Anderson Valley. They're kind of different areas than you hear about in the popular press. And it's always great to find different areas because you might find wines that are exactly to your palate and perhaps not as expensive as the ones that you'll find in the more popular areas. So, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so this particular property I do, and thank you for speaking to sort of the modern history of Bien Nacido. but this is like a truly significant historic property in California. It's goes back to like an original land grant in the mid 1800s, and it's been producing or growing vines in that space since that time. It's a famous vineyard, Bienocino. They not only make wine, but they're probably more famous as people that grow grapevines as a nursery, and you know, it's suggested that, you know, their grape cuttings, their grapevines are responsible for a large majority of Pinot vines that are planted throughout California. It's a truly like deep and historic vineyard property in California. The other thing that I'd like to say is and as I'm tasting this wine, it really just does show the expression of winemaking techniques and climate and all of that. But where they're located, as Howard intimated, was a very unique sort of geological position in the globe. The Santa Maria Valley is one of the is unique in the sense that it runs sort of in this east-west transverse, and there aren't many vineyard areas in the world that have that property. So what that means is that this deep, cold ocean water that's coming off of the Pacific Ocean is channeled through this east-west transverse. If you think of other vineyard areas in the world, they're all kind of situated in this north-south, position. It's very unique, and it's very important to the climate of that region. So, you know, we talked about Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir being grown in cool climate environments. You think of the central coast of California, you're thinking sunny, warm, bright and brilliant.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, but this is one of the sort of the cooler areas of California, just by fact of that geographical position. So they're able to grow Pinot Noir grapes that have the experience of a cool growing season, retaining acidity, retaining brightness, but a long growing season, so they can develop grapes that are rich and bright. And this particular wine, I think all of you will agree, you taste oak, you know, and see how that contributes to the flavor palette of Pinot Noir. Yeah, so that's all I got. So
it's really good, really good.
Delicious.
I have to say,
Yeah.
I don't believe you, Jamie. I don't believe that's all you got. But beautifully said.
So I'd like to say that my dog did not like the wine because we're in the middle of this thunderstorm. She just
So let me
ran off.
ask, did you put peanut butter in the glass?
Good trick.
So Jamie, how many vineyards up in
Hiding in
the
the
Santa
basement.
Maria Valley?
So that's a great question. I don't have the answer to it. But they're, sort of the central coast. So you have Santa Maria, you have Santa Ynez, and I'm sort of blanking on the other couple of areas or sub-appellations of that region. But it's a fairly well-established region. There are famous vineyards out there. You've heard of Sanford Wines. There's Sanford and Benedict property. That's part of the Santa Maria and Santa Ynez Valley. There's it's a well-recognized region for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and Syrah. So
Yes.
yeah. I know I didn't answer your question, but yeah.
No, that's
I
close
think
enough.
He can Google it.
I think Syrah is going to be the next great grape. Like, you're going to see a lot more of Syrah in the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, this reminds me of Syrah in some ways.
So it's really peppery, right? There's a peppery
Yeah.
quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can just tell it's spent all that extra time in oak than like the prior one.
Yeah. Well, this is the one that really shows oak of all of the wines that are there. And it really does show what yeah, just you know, yeah. I mean, it's complementary, right? It doesn't detract; it adds. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it has a nice oak, fruit, and acid and alcohol balance. Like sometimes it could be so over oaked that you can't taste the fruit, but I think it's a nice balance.
So you're the guy I'll ask this question to. If you tasted the Régie Bouvier and this, which one would you pick as the French wine?
That's interesting. The other one, yeah.
Really?
This is California Pinot, but I think it's delicious.
So like the oak for me would like have flipped me.
Put you in California.
It would put me in Burgundy.
That black tea.
It feels more Burgundy than California. You know, the amount of new oak that they have, just the pepperiness in it, the balance. Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah, no, it's interesting to see how like winemaker technique, you know, like the Régie Bouvier is obviously, you know, just kind of a village quality wine, of decent quality, you know. Yeah, but with the introduction of oak and the cool climate conditions of this wine, you know, there's not a lot of like forward fruit expression. I'd be hard pressed. I would have blinded this as a Burgundy, of like Premier Cru quality. Yeah.
Yep.
So price point at the club?
$99.99.
Your standard answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So once again, just think I do think I have this listed as at $40. So yeah.
Okay.
Are any of these on the like to go wine list right now?
This one is. The other ones weren't. I brought them in specifically for the tasting. So, yeah. And once again, Lara, we can, you know, if there's anything you want to get, I will need to order it from the supplier. But if you want to get anything, we can put orders together. So, and that once again, that goes to everyone. So. What I'll do is I'll follow up with a price list.
That'd be great.
If you guys want to purchase anything, yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'm sorry, and the description.
What I want to leave you with is
17.
We tried.
Sorry, there's too many people speaking at once.
Like, what did you love? Like, what did you love? What would you want to buy if you like were buying wine? Like,
are you asking?
And you always have to
to me?
put it. So I'm asking everyone, like what stood out for you? Don't burn dinner. Don't burn dinner, Leonard.
In the whites, it was the Domaine Paul Blanc. And I think this one that we just did in the reds and also the amber.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio fan, but the first and the third, the Alsace and the first one, I thought were really great. But I buy the Pinot, and I'm not a huge Pinot fan, but these Pinots were lovely, particularly the last two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I agree.
So I will say without any hesitation that every time I've tasted Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, it's always been spectacular.
Yeah, there's some good ones there. Lang is another one that's really good, I think. Lange.
Absolutely. I love the Angela. I mean, it's just, there's so many. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's
So
worth
if
a
I can
trip out there,
interject, someone
everybody.
asked me a really important question on chat, and that's what the vintage of the Bien Nacido was. And it's 2013. So this is an aged Pinot Noir. I mean, it's, you know, it's got some bottle age to it, but it still shows like a freshness and, you know, like all of these great qualities. Yeah. So.
What's interesting about Pinot Noirs, how they can age.
Yeah, great Pinot can age. I have like a special bottle that just keeps getting older that I'm just so afraid that when I open it, it's going to be the crust.
Can I ask, what do you guys get on the nose? There's something that I'm getting that I can't place, and it's making me a little crazy. It's specific, but I can't place it.
It's like really sweet berries.
It's almost like hot pink berries, like
strawberries.
Well, pink peppercorn, you could say for sure.
Pink peppercorn. Okay.
Yeah.
So, is it like a little medicinal, like a little like camphor? And that's not a bad thing. That's herbal.
I got a little bit of medicinal, but not a lot.
So, who asked the question? Just I wasn't paying attention. Oh, the buses. So what do you? Was it medicinal? Was it?
No, I'm not getting medicinal. I'm getting something that feels very familiar that I can't put a name to, and I was just hoping.
So and just tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm crazy, but I'm going down the camp of like Vicks Vapor Rub.
Oh my God!
I don't get that.
With well, no, but not that intense. But so African basil has a little bit of like a camphor quality
That's
to
the word
it.
I'm looking for.
I finished mine, so I can't
He can't
check
help
anymore.
you.
Correct. That's our problem too.
I could see it kind of being almost maybe piney.
Does anybody get tobacco off
Piney,
of it?
I can see that.
Maybe.
Piney, yeah,
Piney,
I can
maybe.
see that.
Yeah.
So is
Wait, was that a yes?
I like
Tobacco?
that.
Are we getting?
I like
Is anybody
that
else getting
piney,
tobacco?
Cedary piney thing.
Got tobacco on the first one.
If we're all talking at the
Not this
end,
one.
I want to know what Maritza thought of her first wine tasting at the wine club.
Marissa, what'd you think?
When you use yourself in
Was it your first?
Yeah, it was my first. It was great. I really liked it. I separated based on the ones that I really liked. So I have the first and the third of the Pinot Grigios and the Amity and the third Pinot Noir. So those are my favorites that I really liked. But I love wine, so that's why I joined the wine club. But I just want to learn more about the notes and the smells and the flavors, and the pairings, and all.
And it's your profile. It's your profile. It's just what you find from it. It's and then finding words that go with it. And,
yeah, my favorite is Malbec. I love Malbecs. It's my favorite wine. I'm open to all kinds of wines. I just love experimenting and tasting and learning ones that I love. So that's why I'm here. But this was really fun, and I loved hearing what everyone else had to say, that more so the experts than me.
Well, I will say this was our first wine club. We joined the Center Club, and I think we were admitted in March, so we've been.
Oh, good.
Around.
So I'm glad we've already screwed up one of your orders, so we got that out of the way. So, yeah.
So, but I mean, we drink a lot of wine, and we've done other tastings elsewhere. But this is great, and we look forward to being a part of it more in the future. So we're very excited to be a part as we go forward. So
cheers.
Yeah, cheers and welcome. So relative to that, Jamie and Howard, so when do you anticipate it will actually be able to do this in person?
I would say God, but it's not that influential. I just don't know. So
yeah.
So
well, of course,
I will make a commitment. I'll make a commitment, which is if I need to do this multiple times a month to spread out people on tables, I'm happy to do that.
Oh, I see. Great.
Those please, Howard. Yeah, those things are way beyond our control right now. So
I'm happy to help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
God bless.
Yeah, virtual isn't so bad.
I like it.
Yeah, virtual's all right too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We actually
Thank you, Howard, and thank you, Jamie.
Yes, we really appreciate.
So good.
Yeah.
We have a lot.
bravo.
Thank you very
Definitely,
much.
we look forward to them a lot.
I think we can all
safe out
agree
there.
that
Toast?
during this pandemic, we're drinking way too much, but
Yeah.
that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
So I
They
live,
say it's
I live
bad for
in
your
Just getting
immunity.
strong for
and
my
people
cases of
drink
vomiting.
every night. So I'm not sure what way too much is, but people drink every night. Like it's fine. Like as long as you're eating dinner with, who cares?
Right.
Here's Howard.
So therein lies the rub, Howard. So I've been eating dinner and drinking like all the time. So,
3 times a day.
Bravo, bravo.
so now I have
We
to go
held
to
off
work
till
tomorrow,
Thursday
and
this
I
week.
don't
Yeah.
have pants to fit. So yeah.
Perfect.
As long as you're drinking something you enjoy, like why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a labor of love for both of you, and we really appreciate it.
We really do.
Well, thank you all for being here.
Well,
Hopefully,
right back at you,
Jamie,
man.
hopefully, Jamie, I can convince her to come to the Center Club soon.
Well, you know what? Please be careful. Let your you know your better selves regulate. We're still doing the to-go stuff and all of that. So if you want a Center Club meal, you can do that and pick up and
It's really good.
and now we can obviously get wine in the bag and all of that. So
Yeah.
don't feel the need to
Cool.
just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
We've done
Yeah.
several of the to-go meals, and they've been wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But you guys have been terrific. So
We had the soft shell crab for lunch today.
Oh,
It was really good.
yes. Highly
Yeah?
recommend while they are
Yeah.
here. Everyone just do it. Just order the soft shell crab. Go pick it up. It is amazing. That last wine would go perfectly. We were very impressed with the soft shells this afternoon.
Yep.
They
Great.
could come back
Well,
again.
that's terrific. Yeah. So from my vantage point, I see AJ and Stephanie and the Richmonds pouring wine frantically. So they're at what I would call the it's time to get out of the room moment of the in-person wine club tasting, because I don't want to witness this. And it's good to see that they're able to carry that tradition home.
Well,
Oh my God.
Food, and we've got some Center Club takeout, so we're
Oh.
cake and
Did anybody get the crabs?
how it all tastes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They did not get the crab.
You
I
guys.
got the pasta tonight. I keep going back to the pasta. It's good. But maybe the crabs next time.
So,
It is good.
Do you-
Get the
do you
soft shells
make
while they're
your
here.
own?
I gotta tell you.
Laura, do you make your own pasta?
No, I got the Center Club pasta today.
The Center
But I
Club
tell you
pasta is
what,
good.
all my friends are baking bread and making pasta, so I think I
True.
have a growing source of food in my neighborhood these days. It's been pretty interesting.
I will say
Making-
Stephanie was doing sourdough before it was cool.
That's right.
She was.
That's
She's
right.
been doing it for years now.
Sourdough, I get it.
We've got sourdough Majorcas and we've got sourdough semolina rising right now as we speak.
Oh.
But you're right, baby. I was doing it before it was cool.
We're doing gluten-free tonight, so I'm going to sign out.
Cheers. Great to see you guys.
Yes,
Hey,
thank you
this is
so
a lot
much.
of
fun.
Wonderful,
Okay,
as
man.
always. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have
Yeah.
a great
Have a good one, everyone.
Good night.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
Jamie, great job. Thank you.
Yeah, great job to you, man. You were awesome.
Well, I have to say I loved preparing for this. I learned so much, and it's just amazing to me to learn. Like I speak fluent French, and to learn new phrases in French that I don't know, and to learn about lutte raisonnée, and then to read about, just be on the tangent about lutte raisonnée in France and who's doing it, where are they doing it, where is it going on.
Yeah. So while you were talking all about that, I was thinking that you mentioned the Champagne region. I mean, it's like, and I don't know what it is like today, but I know it's significantly better. But literally the soils in Burgundy, the soils in France were literally like microbially dead, through over chemical, processes. There was this thing called like the blue bag from Paris that would blow from Paris into the vineyards of Champagne and then just get tilled into the soil. And, you know, that was acceptable, you know? So like the dirty little plastic bags would be sticking up from these, you know, like Grand Cru, you know, vineyard properties in Champagne that are, you know, ultimately making wine that are, you know, several $100s a bottle, you know, and it's just like completely irresponsible. It's like insane, you know, and likewise in Burgundy, you know, like the soil in Burgundy was literally declared dead, like dead, like moonscape, you know, not so long ago. So the fact that these, you know, growers and producers are, you know, doing the right thing, and not everyone's doing it, but doing the right thing and reinvigorating, you know, that is incredible, you know.
But what's even more incredible to me about it is the French is such a top-down state. Like you think about the Napoleonic 1855 rules, and this whole process has been from the growers that have just said enough, and let's figure something else out. Let's go organic. Let's go lutte raisonnée. Let's figure something out. And it's not the French government that says you have to do this. It's really come up from the growers, which is un-French.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. From a labor union perspective, I guess, but you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're like a, you know, a multi-generational grower, you know, their purpose is to pass on something that's better for the next generation. So, you know, so that's not in that context, you know.
It's true. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting to me that France is so top down. It's from Paris and they tell everybody what to do. And then the European Union, they tell everybody what to do. And this has come from the growers that have said, let's do this. Let's make better wines. Let's make saner wines. Let's do it more organically, more originally, less chemicals.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's been fascinating.
This is a
in
really
Beaujolais.
big topic. It's like,
Beaujolais is completely organic. It's amazing how many crus in Beaujolais have gone organic. And this whole concept of this lutte raisonnée that has grown up, like, from the growers. Like, it's not
I wouldn't hang your hat on lutte raisonnée so much. It really is kind of like the lowest rung on the responsible scale.
Sure.
But at least it's a step in the right direction. And for people that don't have deep pockets, that can't, you know, like afford to invest in, you know, developing like a, you know, a biodynamic, you know, program where there's like a, you know, investment in, you know, compost piles and everything else that's involved with that. You know, lutte raisonnée is definitely the right first step, but that's what it is. It's the right first step. So,
But if you only have like 0.15 acres and you're like not from a wealthy family, but it's been handed down and handed down and handed down through the generations, like it's a step in the right direction. It's not just dumping a bunch of chemicals to make the grapes like just grow and have no pests and not worry about like, what comes next. That
Heard. Yeah.
In the right direction.
Yep.
And James, I just say that I'm on the Young Members Committee, and we talk a lot. I think this has been done before about a wine tasting for the young members, because a lot of us are not wine connoisseurs, and we just go for the cheapest bottles that taste good.
Right.
So, you know, we love wine.
And by the way, so do I.
me too. Like, I have a sparkling wine that comes from the area where in France, in Italy, where they make a ton of sparkling wine in the Veneto. And it's $20, and they've been doing it for over 100 years now. And it's $20. it's spectacular. And everybody who drinks it says, how can I get this? Let me take a picture of the bottle. And it's $20. And there's spectacular wine at $20. Every type, everywhere. Like, you don't need to spend a lot to have great wine. You just need to know a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if there's something that you're focused on, I mean, so just, we're introducing ourselves to each other. So I'm just a little shy over 2 years at the club. And I love talking about wine. So, and I did just one or two things with the Young Members Committee, in the past. But if you want to get together and share ideas on things that maybe we could do, specifically for that, I'm thrilled to do it, because it really is my favorite thing to do. So
yeah, it's come up a few times.
Yeah.
I've only been a member of the club for 1 year, so I'm,
Right.
I'm not an expert, but it's definitely come up, and people are saying like they're a little bit intimidated joining the big group where people say, I've been to France and I've tried all of these, and it's like, I don't know what to say. But being in a group where you feel like, okay, we're all kind of on the same level here.
Yeah.
We all just like wine, and we just want to try different kinds of wines, just basic level. Like this, I mean, I'm on a basic level here, but this was really good. Just palate tasting, and just seeing what I like, what I don't like, and being exposed to different things. So.
And what are the words that people use, and how do they describe it, and learning that, and just finding your own path, your own palette, your own view. And it's great.
Yeah. Maybe we could set that up sometime. I know we have a young members virtual happy hour coming up soon, but maybe we could set up a wine tasting in the future at some point.
I'm game. I am.
Me too.
I am your huckleberry. So we'll.
I'll be happy to help.
Great, love it.
I mean, so we were sort of knowledgeable, but not at all super knowledgeable. And I have to say, since joining the wine club, everybody has been super accepting, and I think just very informative in terms of breaking things down, that it makes wine accessible. And I think there are things that I pick up now that I know, I think 2 years ago, I would have never thought that I would talk like this.
What a ponce. Oh my God. Just stop talking, okay?
And seriously, I think with Jamie, Jamie, Howard, and Al have been just a blessing, I think, in terms of just being very
As have you, Stephanie.
Absolutely. So you are in good hands, and welcome to the club. And we look forward to actually meeting you in person.
In real life.
Yeah.
I was surprised at the price points, because I was thinking it was going to be way higher every time. I was like, this is too good for it to be 20, 30, 40 range, but they all were kind of in that space. So I was surprised.
That's the wine club. We have to make it affordable. And so we have to really think it through, like when we do tastings, to make sure that it makes sense for everybody. Yeah.
It was great. I loved it. I really, really did love it. So thank you for putting it all together virtually.
Right. And now that you have like 3 groups of people staring at you, you can leave whenever you want. So if you want to keep on talking, great. I'd love to learn more about you and all of that, but don't feel pressure.
So Jamie, do you want to go home now?
That's not what that statement was all about. It really was like, I really just felt like we were like, just, all right, we got this person we're like zeroing in on.
No,
so,
I stayed in so I could make my comment.
I know, right? You did, yeah. That was your choice, not mine. So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm gonna sip on a little more wine. So you know.
So,
yeah. So if you want to hang out and drink, I'm good. So
no, I think Jamie and Howard, which ones were your favorite wines out the bash tonight? Favorite.
Yeah. So out of the whites,
No, favorite.
I'm not a.
One.
What's that?
One.
I don't do that. I don't say that.
Okay.
You know that story. You know the answer.
I know. Okay, fine. All right, fine. go with what you were going to answer. So out the whites, out the reds.
So out of the whites, yeah, I fucking hate Pinot Gris.
See, I wouldn't say that. I'm a huge fan of Alsatian wine, and to me that just stood out. I liked all of them, but I like the Alsatian the best of the whites. Clearly.
Right. So if you're picking children that are, like minor pickpockets or anything like that, so the Italio Siscon I would drink, but it was just like, it was super bitter, and it would be great with like if someone said like shellfish or something like that, really good. The other two for me were just like two Pinot Gris. They were, so Pinot Gris for me is like medium, and then there's sugar, and it just never ever makes me happy. So
yeah,
out of the three, it was the first one that I would drink.
Okay. Yeah. I think it was.
Now I will say a caveat, and going back to your point, Howard, like Grand Cru Alsace Pinot Gris can be amazing. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So can I school you on some Italian?
You're gonna school us? Yes, please.
So anytime you have a C and it's followed by a vowel, it's always hard. It's a hard C.
So Italio Cescon, my apologies.
Cescon. Cescon. It's because it's C-E. Cescon. So it's a hard C.
Okay.
So it's always that way. So if it's a C-E or C-I, it's always hard.
So
yeah.
Cescon. Cescon.
Cescon.
Okay.
Yep. And most Italian words end in a vowel.
Are you tapping out? Quitter.
Too much.
Have a great night.
Oh, bye. It was great meeting you guys.
Bye.
Good
Good to meet you. Reach out to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
She was like way too much.
Yeah, so
Way too much.
that's my Italian lesson for tonight, is anytime you have a consonant followed by a vowel, it's a hard.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting, anytime there's a hard ending to it, like think about all the Italian words that you think of that end in vowels. Like there's a fantastic aria in the Barber of Seville, where he's talking about the Barber of Seville, that it's just vowel after vowel after vowel.
I'm
after
thinking
vowel.
Bugs Bunny, just so you know.
Exactly. And so, but it's just gone. It ends in a hard. And part of that comes from Charlemagne and coming from the East, and it's a hard ending to it. Yeah. And history is so amazing to me in wine. And we've talked about some of that tonight. But to me, it's amazing that, like, if you look at the history, and the history of the wines in Santa Maria, and it's just, the history is amazing to think about. Wine that's been there since 1762 in Alsace. And, yeah, it's just fascinating. And
I mean, that really is truly one of the glories of it all. It's very all-encompassing, and if you go down the rabbit hole, it's never ending. I always describe the process as an onion, like layer after layer after year. It's just.
I've never gotten to the bottom, and in doing this, I was looking at the Pinot Noir from Oregon, and looking at the strains of Pinot Noir that it came from.
You're talking about the vineyards.
The vineyards, like it's like 126 and 146 strains.
Oh, you're talking clones there. So, yeah.
The clone of the Pinot Noir, and then talking about bricks and the amount of sugar in the wine, and it's endless. And one of the things that's amazing to me about wine is you can't know it all. You can just know more and more and more, but you can't know it all. There's always going to be someone who's going to talk about something and you're like,
that you don't know.
okay, I can give it context, but I don't know what it is. Like, I haven't tasted
Right.
it. I haven't been to the vineyard. And like I hadn't heard about Luc Raisonné before the tasting tonight. And I went down the rabbit hole of Luc Raisonné and seeing how in different areas of France that Luc Raisonné had taken hold among places that weren't organic, weren't biodynamic, weren't natural, but we're trying to do something better than just throwing crap in the vineyard and any kind of chemicals and putting yeast in it, and who cares?
Yep.
So did you guys
Yeah.
check out the reds that you liked?
Did we share the reds that we liked? No.
Pinpoint.
I avoided that question.
I know you did.
I was hoping with Trumpian diplomacy, but obviously not. Yeah. So, yeah. So you want an answer?
Yes, I do.
Real quick,
Damn you.
I'm having the, Jamie, to give you a minute, I'm having the crab cake now that we ordered earlier. And the Alsatian wine is really, the white is really going.
That would be so freaking good with that. It's a little spicy. It's like that sweet crab meat. That is an amazing pairing for that. Yeah.
It's true.
I think the Alsatian wine and the first wine, the Italian wine, was actually really good with it. So I did not like the smell of it at all. And I actually loved the smell of the second one, but the taste of the second one did not. It did not reflect
So
that smell.
to get
But
the
the first one was
get-
so good with food. It was so good with
the
food.
first one is perfect for sitting out on the back patio and having like some cheese and some
Yeah.
meats and just,
And that's what we did.
Where did your guests go?
Yep.
Well, they're all, I think they're all scattered because.
So like, I don't want to hear this bullshit. I'm just gonna go hang out. Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna
Oh, here's,
yeah.
she's right here.
Thank you.
She's munching. I'm listening. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And they're all munching on right now because
So they got
I think
some,
we're all hungry. So
We got some
yeah.
Grubhub.
So what are you drinking now, Jamie?
What?
Korean takeaway.
What are you drinking now? What did you choose?
but
Oh, that was the Reggie Bouvier.
so Jamie, you missed it.
The Red
Michelle actually made
Very interesting.
She made like a charcuterie plate because we've missed Center Club so much. She
Uh-huh.
made like, yeah. We'll just send you.
I don't have a
of it.
picture. Heather took a picture.
Yeah,
so.
her daughter came in from Texas, so her daughter took a.
That's amazing. That's great.
But like, she.
Michelle, don't feel like you need to sit here. I'm good.
Oh, we should send them some. Yeah. Yep.
Well, just come here and broadcast from here.
You know what, Jamie? You are supposed to come here and do a.
Howard,
wine
you
tasting.
too.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Let's just do it.
Not tonight. I've got a big
Oh, no,
opening
not
day
tonight.
tomorrow.
No,
So
not today, but
yeah.
I'm saying in the,
Big opening tomorrow. Yeah,
in the future.
we were talking about this earlier. Like it's a big deal.
Oh, because here you can show. You can actually show Jamie. So then Jamie can like.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie,
You can
there's.
see all my bottles. Oh, dear.
Howard, we're on a room tour.
Can you
see?
Holy moly!
Can you
look at
see?
that.
Because I have all these drawers
Oh,
full.
that's fantastic.
Oh my goodness!
Like,
look at that, and it's like how convenient.
Hold on. There's
Oh, and more.
these that you can't see. Can you actually see or no? Wait.
I can see. Yeah.
Well, they're all down, and then there's stuff underneath there. But yeah.
You're asking if you can see in a drawer that's closed.
That was a neat
No,
trick,
can you see?
Jamie.
So this is the episode of Hoarders that
but
I
Jamie-
want to watch.
But Jamie,
So-
this is what we were telling you, that you need to come and dig through what she has.
So then
Right.
actually do like a tasting for us because we have sometimes no idea.
So you have to see Alice Polar's wine cellar, which
Oh,
is
Al.
I have a lot. But Alice Polar, his wine cellar is fantastic.
I know. I'm sure we cannot be Al, but
Just wait till I buy a house.
Yeah.
no.
All right,
No,
I'm
none of
gonna
us
go
can
eat
be
dinner.
Al at all.
Have a great night.
Yeah, none of us can be
Thank
Al
you guys
ever.
for everything.
But
It was
good
so
night.
much fun.
All right.
And thank you, Jamie, for doing this.
Yep. Have a good night.
Yeah. No. Howard and Howard did a great job, and this was fun, right? Way to go, Wine Club! Wine Club rules!
Great job, Howard.
Fun. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Take it easy.
Enjoy your weekend.
Oh, I don't know how to turn this off.
Good night.